We're recording, got it. So it might be like I was inaugural juror for the Tallman Museum's juried exhibition where they were looking at Virginia art, you know, and so usually those are the parameters that I'm working within, but this having such a unique theme allowed me to view work from all over. I mean, far-flung places and a wide range of work around this common theme of iridescence. And it allowed me to take a deep dive into what iridescent meant, really. And choosing work was really difficult, mainly because there was so much good work out of the over 300, around 300 works that I viewed. You know, there was, I could have had 3 shows out of it. So, but I tried not to judge, I tried to judge each piece on their own criteria. So I guess what I mean by that is that, you know, each artist approached this theme from their own unique way. Some were very, very literal, you know, as we see photographs of iridescence in nature that just happen to be right there in front of us. And some were more metaphorical. So I tried to judge the work not on this idea of how did they fit the theme so much on their iridescence per se, but on their successes and failures as individual works of art. So, and as I wrote in my juror statement, the way I kind of saw, the way I define iridescence in this case is it's a visual phenomenon in which a surface appears to change as the perspective or illumination is shifted. And, you know, as I started looking at all these works, I realized quickly that there was both a literal meaning of iridescence within these works and a metaphorical meaning in many instances. And so that led me to this idea that the very act of creating art is an iridescent practice. It's an attempt to illuminate the unseen in many ways, or to shift the viewer's perspective out of their comfort zone into a new way of seeing things. So that I had that in mind when I was looking at all this work. Like I said, each person approached the concept in their own unique ways, medium or metaphor, optics or narrative. And they used a lot of different materials. We have sculpture, we have tapestry, there's painting and drawing and photography. And sometimes they would just approach this idea of iridescence strictly through the materials that they were using. And other times, strictly through the narratives they were trying to convey. And one of the unlikely themes that kind of popped up when I was looking at all these works and choosing works, it was this unexpected idea of transforming narratives through this iridescent treatment. And I'm thinking of works like Danielle Burns, which we saw just earlier, and her elevation of kind of everyday moments into something greater through and utilizing iridescent materials to kind of emphasize that. Kylan Gilbeau, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right, but Kylan Gilbeau's kind of soap bubbles around figures in crisis, creating almost like halos. Are we trying to find Kylan's? There we go. And these soap bubbles trying to create like these protective halos, elevating these subjects that are in moments of crisis. And then also Sage, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce her name right or not either, but Sage Matata, I believe is how you might say it. This beautiful work where she's transforming this unicorn image into like this working class archetype, something that we've never, this is a brand new perspective for us, and using iridescent fibers, iridescent yarns in that transformation of the surface. So that said, I guess I should announce the winners, even though they're already on the website, I believe. But we'll start with the third place. Honorable mention, Marcy Palmer, which I believe Marcy's here. I think I saw her enter the waiting room earlier. And this work is just beautiful to me. And, you know, she received honorable mention because her use of the gilded vellum, this varnish, and the wax. And I have to admit, I have seen some of these in person. I have not met Marcy, I don't believe, in person, but I have seen these on the wall before. So I'm familiar with the iridescent quality of the surface. And between the gilding of the photographs on vellum and this kind of varnish that she layers over it, and then this wax surface, it creates a highly unique surface that changes with light and with perspective. So her practice also elevates overlooked plants, mainly wildflowers and weeds, into the realm of high art and beauty. And these works are iridescent both physically and metaphorically, and they're little gems. They're beautiful. So that's honorable mention, Marcy Palmer, Windblown Flowers. Second place is James Flynn, New Orleans artist and an artist who also I have seen this surface before. So, and I believe it's this piece, Fluxation, Plication, and Levitation. I don't know if James is here with us tonight or not, but it is the epitome of, I think, optokinetic energy and iridescence. And what this work does is it challenges the viewer's perception of color and image. And he uses these rhythmic lines and harmonic colors together to kind of trick the eye into these new ways of seeing the surface. And as you move, as you get closer, as you pull apart, the surface changes completely. And I'm not sure, I do know that sometimes his works can change with black lights, change completely. I'm not sure if these works do or not. I'm sure he would have told you if he needed a black light on them.
Yeah, not these works, but we actually have displayed a work by James before that needed that black light, and it really was transformative. It's very impressive.
It's very impressive work. And this is what he does, and he does it very, very well. So second place to James Flynn. But first place goes to Benjamin Timson. This is an artist I'd never seen before, was unfamiliar with his work until I saw the work in the submissions. And he's utilizing the quintessential iridescent natural material, which is the butterfly wings. And I'm sure there's much resonance with your entomology focus throughout the museum with this. But he uses these wings to create these transcendent portraits of Native American women who have been murdered, abused, or have gone missing. With this portrait, Aila Sarek Auger, he's created this portrait of a young, a 14-year-old woman from the Ladli Tena nation in British Columbia, who was murdered in 2006. So these surface, it's not only a narrative, an iridescent surface, but it's an iridescent narrative, and it's shifting our perception and bringing new light, really, to a subject that has been overlooked until recently, a subject that the plight of these Native American women who are more likely to go missing, more likely to suffer domestic abuse or sexual abuse than any other group in the United States. So the work does double duty and not only metamorphing these portraits into something in the realm of high beauty and high art, but also serving to bring attention to a subject within the community that needs to be addressed, that we all need to be aware of. So really powerful work. and first place. And that's it.
We'll stay on this slide. I'd also like to point out, we talked about Marcy and James's technique a little bit, but what doesn't translate perfectly on a screen, but you can see in person, is the depth that these butterfly wings give the work, and the way that they are carefully trimmed and very thoughtfully placed, down to individual eyelashes, very small detailed work, intense layering that just really adds to the story and brings into focus almost. They almost act as pixels, some of these small squares, and it brings into focus the person and the story behind this image.
I'm really excited to be able to get to Baton Rouge to see these in person, because as you know, the process of jurying one of these exhibitions is totally digital. And sometimes you get the opportunity to view the works before you choose the winners. But in this case, and in our current situation with COVID, and I was not able to do that. So I'm glad to hear that it is so successful in real life, as it seemed to me digitally.
Yes, it is certainly successful. Well, thank you, Bradley. And at this time, we'd like to open up the floor to a Q&A. If anybody would like to ask Bradley or I questions, or ask any of the artists, please, I guess, ask in the chat, and Beth will unmute you. She is our leader here. And in the meantime, we'll also try and do a walkthrough of the gallery and start up this slideshow again. And I do see in the chat, yeah, these works will be on view for a full year as part of a new initiative at LASM to really give our visitors a chance to visit and revisit the exhibitions that we put so much work and love into. And it also helps our educators. A big part of museum life is education. K through 12 is where LASM really excels, I think. And it's great for, say, a 4th grade class to come, and then each semester they can come, and they don't just, a teacher can use the same curriculum. Our educators can really go deep into their research and into their presentations, and so it really benefits a lot of people to have these longer exhibitions, which is counterintuitive. A lot of museums in the past have done shorter exhibitions, but we're trying this out, and so far people have been really receptive to it. Is Marcy still here?
Marcy and James are here, but Jennifer asked a question.
Okay.
Let's see, which image did the juror investigate the concept the most? Was it a photo, a sculpture, or a painting? So Bradley, this one's for you.
There's not, you don't get, I don't know the artist, so I don't have access to anything except the artist's statement when I'm looking at these works. No biographical information. So I couldn't really do a deep dive that way into the artist's body of work per se. But what I did when I really started to kind of think about, I believe it was the butterfly wings and that work, Benjamin Timson's work, that really got me thinking about the concepts, the theme, the subject of the work. James Flynn's work I was a little familiar with, but I wanted to really wrap my head around this idea of if that truly is iridescence, and I concluded that it was. So maybe the Benjamin Timson's piece led me into the deepest consideration of anyone's. Maybe that's why I got first place.
And we have another question for you, Bradley. Have you ever considered the concept of iridescence in artwork before we asked you about this exhibition?
Never. And I definitely have thought a lot about surface and different ways surfaces are treated, and the way surfaces can sometimes change with perspective. As an exhibition designer as well as a curator, you know, I think a lot about how people view the work. And so shiny surfaces are a lighting nightmare. So often iridescence might be something that I would cringe from because how are we going to light this, etc. So, but no, as a concept within fine art and fine art practices, I've never considered iridescence until this show.
Yes, I can say we hung some mirrored works by an artist named Kate Nichols today, and that thankfully came with very specific instructions from the artist about reflecting off of a blank wall so that you didn't get a glare. It was still a trick. But I'd like to ask Marcy a question. I'd love to know more about what draws you to the subject of wildflowers and weeds. I'm a big fan of native gardening, so I'd love to know what attracts you to this subject.
Thank you. I started by going on walks in my neighborhood, and that's sort of how I kind of started with the subject matter. And actually it relates to a previous body of work where I was sourcing branches and things. But I started to see it as a metaphor for people and you know, I really like this idea of kind of escaping into nature as a respite. So, yeah.
It makes perfect sense. I relate to you there. That's something that quarantine did bring me last spring, was escaping into nature.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, do we have any other questions?
I want to ask James a question about kind of the inspiration behind this particular piece. Let me see if James, can you unmute? Let's see, I've asked him, but if not, it's okay.
Okay, very good. The inspiration actually comes from butterfly wings. Timson's work is exquisite. The blue morpho butterfly wings have really rocked my brain since I first saw work done with butterfly wings down in Brazil. Working with iridescence is extremely difficult. In addition to that, working with colors and color separation gets difficult too. I kind of work off of George Seurat's chromoluminerism, and I use 3 pure colors, and I like the way that you can achieve chromatic induction and create new colors as they combine in your eye. Achieving that's one thing, but the iridescence, that's a whole different animal or situation. I just came from the museum about 2 hours ago, and I saw Timson's piece in person. It is phenomenal. I believe it may be backlit, but in addition to that, when you approach it and you walk around it, you see the blue morpho butterfly wings iridesce incredibly. But that's pretty much the inspiration.
That's great. Thank y'all. What I might do now is y'all can continue to ask questions, but I am actually going to try my darndest to walk around with my cell phone camera and take y'all on a little tour of the physical gallery. But please continue asking questions in the chat. Lexi, I'm going to pass it to you to take charge of that. And that way I can focus on walking around. So we'll see how it goes.
Bradley, I'll throw this question to you from Sage. She asks, How did the decision to include artworks with mythical creatures come about? The white deer, the unicorn.
Yeah, it wasn't an intentional decision to include mythical creatures, and maybe it's my guilty pleasure of watching bad sci-fi and fantasy television that influenced it a little bit. But like I said, I tried to judge each piece on the merits of within the work itself, and I loved your exploration of this unicorn theme, and from a completely different perspective than I've ever thought about it before. So a question I had for you actually was whether, let's see if I can unmute you, whether or not, how long it takes you to create one of those works, and how large is that series? Are you still continuing to work with this, this unicorn concept within your work?
Hi, thank you. Yes, I am interested in still studying unicorn lineage, but a contemporary perspective, meaning that I study unicorns that are present in stores like the dollar store, Target, Walmart, that are very glittery and tacky, as some people say. So I was really interested in your interpretation of iridescence found in nature. And I was kind of surprised that I got in because, you know, unicorns aren't totally found in nature. So I was trying to understand your broader view of nature, you know what I mean? And sorry.
Yeah, that definitely wasn't a criteria that it had to be from nature at all. I think the iridescent qualities of your work are in the materials themselves. And your use of iridescent yarn, I believe, was one of your materials listed. And how that, and I have not actually seen it physically, and maybe perhaps Lexi can attest to how the perspective of this unicorn shifts as your perspective shifts. Does it kind of appear when you get closer or at a certain angle, or?
Yes. The way that the tapestry hangs in our gallery, if you don't mind, Sage, it really does appear, disappear, reappear as you move and shift around the object. It really does. The natural waves in the textile itself, and then the lighting with that really does lend itself to that iridescent theme, which then is stacked with unicorns, which in our fantasy are these iridescent, glittery, metallic, so bright that they reflect creatures.
How long did it take you to create that tapestry, Sage?
I have to think about it for a minute because there's drafting the weaving file and then standing there weaving it on a digital jacquard loom. So I would say about 15 hours.
Oh, that's not a whole lot. Yes.
No, it's not too bad. It's just some physical work working with the jacquard loom because it is an active participation with the loom.
Okay.
So there's just the physical activity. That one I think took me about 6 hours straight, standing and weaving. So there's a little bit of physical labor there. But all in all, the total time to make it isn't too terrible.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, I was much longer. I'm sorry, who was that?
James.
Yes, James, ask your question.
So I managed to sneak into the museum late this afternoon, and that particular piece took me by surprise. From a distance, it appeared to be a weaving that had iridescent qualities, and of course, as I moved around it, the iridescence, shifted in color. But when I approached, I suppose, a sweet spot, that's when the piece revealed itself, and I was speechless to see the unicorn and a familiar object in the midst, and just the whole concept of the unicorn, and the perception, exquisite. It was a beautiful piece.
Thanks, James. It looks like we've got a question in the chat from Marcy to Amy, if you are here. Marcy would like to know if you could tell us if there's a narrative aspect to your work. Amy Ragus, that question's to you if you are able to unmute. Maybe not. Well, do we have any more questions while we are all here? If not, I would like to thank you all once again, and a special thank you to Bradley and the work that you put into curating this beautiful exhibition with a tricky and unique theme, but it has turned out so special and so wonderful. And I can't wait for more of you to get to visit. And like I said, we will definitely be sharing online when the full LASM 360 walkthrough is up. And in the meantime, we have a virtual gallery online as well at virtual-lasm.org. So thank you all so much for your time and for joining us this evening, and congratulations on being included in this exhibition.
Also, I think Benjamin he just texted me, he's trying to log on. So I think he's coming on, but congratulations to Benjamin. And all of this is recorded and we'll share it with all the artists as well as you, Bradley. So congratulations to everyone, and thank y'all so much for participating.
Yeah, congratulations to everyone, and thank you for sharing your work with me and with LASM. I'm super excited to explore. Now that I have your names, I'll probably be friending you on Instagram and see more of your work. So look forward to.
Sorry, I was moving around.
Oh, there's Amy. Oh, she got muted.
That was my bad. Sorry, Amy, you can unmute.
Hey guys, this is Ben Timson here, one of the artists I think in the show too. So sorry I'm late. I'm teaching a workshop at Anderson Ranch right now and I forgot to set a timer, but thank you so much for giving me the Zoom link, and I'm glad to be here. So
Thank you, Benjamin. And we'll send you the recording so that you can hear all of your praises that we sang.
okay, thank you.
All right, everyone. Thank you once again for joining us, and good evening. Enjoy the rest of your nights.
Thank you.
Thank you.